5 wins in 6 rounds certainly makes Holly look tough to beat. However, here at Martinsville, tempers tend to flare and bad decisions are easily made. With pressure mounting to do something to stop the role that the multi-time champion has been on, will someone resort to the dreaded chrome horn? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Christian, they've nicknamed this place the Paperclip, and it certainly stands out among the half-mile ovals on the NASCAR circuit.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's a half-mile track, one of my favorites actually. With 12 degrees of banking in the turns, these concrete pads kind of means the bottom line is really preferred. And tonight we'll be doing 140 laps or 60 minutes, whichever comes first. And now I'll hand you over to the lap guide so you can see what it's like to get around this place.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Brian Yazik and I'll be taking you for a spin around legendary Martinsville Speedway in the GSRC Chevrolet SS. Martinsville is all about rolling the middle of the corner and then out into the exit. That's where you're going to win today. So, going down into turn 1, you're going to try to float it down there and stick close to that curbing as possible. Not too close, because if you hit it, the car will actually jump up and basically spin out on you. Once again, going back down into turn 3, find the curbing, back into the throttle, and then right back out on the straightaway. Your braking marker is going to be right about that Sprint Cup sign on the wall. Some people choose to brake right at it, some choose to brake right after it. That's just the varying degrees of driving styles that are out there. Driving down into turn 3, once again, float in the middle of the corner. Don't get it too much. The car will wash out a little bit if you try to get too aggressive with it. That's what happened right there. Back down into turn 1. You're going to try to float it down in there. This is a little too high, but you can get a straight shot off. Coming off of the corner there. Once again, back down into turn 3, floating it in there, letting the car roll really nice through the middle, back onto the gas hard, coming on to the exit of the corner, and right under the start-finish line one more time. You might see guys run that second lane right up there, right above the seams, as the run wears on and the tires wear out, but I don't know if it's going to be too productive, but people will certainly try. Back down into turn 4 again, off, back underneath the start-finish line, and you've completed your time around Martinsville Speedway. It's going to be a great race today. Tempers are probably going to flare, and guys, the winner of this race is going to be the one with the least crinkled up car. So, my name was Brian Yazik, and this was Martinsville Speedway.
You can see a couple laps around the infamous Paperclip, and of course, as we get ready to start qualifying here, there we go. Now we've got a picture for you as we see that it has come back to a little bit of a cloudy bit, which will certainly help with the qualifying as drivers get ready to start on that. Let's take a look at the championships, starting with the drivers. And I mentioned that Bradley Hawley has certainly been running away with things. A 35-point lead is a whopper here, as we only have a couple races left in the season. But then, of course, naturally, as you'd expect, it's pretty tight between those behind him. Rob Haynes, Paul Williams, Charles Sumner, and Paul Johnson, all still well within range of one another, try and swap places around. But the real question is, can anyone stop Hawley? Christian, what about the team's championship, though?
Well, similar story as the drivers, really. The Waterback Fun Center team have got a pretty big advantage. The Waterback Ramrod team is second, but 62 points behind, quite a considerable margin. Then in third, we've got Team 24/7, who are 36 points behind, so bit of a ground to make up that second, but they're in a pretty close fight for third with Redline Racing, who are only 10 points behind them. And then we've got Hard Knocks West in fifth, 27 points behind.
Now, if you've never watched this series before, we have a few things that we need to go over so that you understand how the racing will play out. This is round 7 out of 10, and there are 140 laps to run, as was mentioned earlier, but it is limited to 60 minutes. And as cautions are not an uncommon thing here at Martinsville, that could also play a part in the race. It is a fixed setup, so the drivers really are looking for how they drive the track, not necessarily how they tweak the car. There is a green-white checkered, one that they have available to send it into overtime, and they have a 17 incident limit. You got to be careful of that. You can get a lot of bumping and banging here at Martinsville, and 4Xs will rack up. So qualifying is underway, and Bradley Hawley has moved himself up to the provisional pole. Regular face next to him right now is Paul Williams, with Rachel Hunt having finished hers. She's got herself in 4th once again, seeing if she could take a second win of the season. The only other person in this series who has won this season when she took it at Talladega. I mentioned the cloud cover, Christian, and it looks like it's actually pretty decent conditions out here. I'm seeing 88 degrees on the track surface. Probably not going to be a concern, you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of transition from practice to the qualifying, and there's a little bit of pickup, and quite late on in the day here, so there's a good amount of grip right now, and we see Pat Harvey's actually put down a really good lap to take the pole with an 18.683.
Well, that, I guess, goes against what you were talking about earlier, saying that Harvey is better in warm-up than he is during the qualifying itself. Let's see if he can back it up during the race. We're looking for someone to try and challenge Holly. Frank Peacock could as well, as he's only a few hundredths back. And Dan McLaren as well now taking the pole. It has cooled down 1 degree, but I wouldn't expect it to be that significant. Since I last looked, he's got 1 more lap. Here it is, Dan. So as he comes across, the Canadian does not improve on that second time around, 0.2 slower.
It's a really impressive lap, though. I mean, he's well clear, and it's kind of surprising. We haven't really seen people waiting it out too much in qualifying and actually having an advantage from it, but it seems like this week we really are seeing that.
And I believe that's everybody, as we've only got a minute left, and even though they are 20-second laps, I see no sign of the last 3 to put a time in. So might as well walk our way through the grid to give you an idea of how today is shaping up when the green flag will drop. Our leader is going to be Dan McLaren on the pole position. Pat Harvey was able to fill out the front row with Bradley Hawley starting in 3rd. Frank Peacock, who I mentioned, also very quick, the outside of row 2 and 4th. Paul Williams starting P5. Robert Besaw Jr. at first, not too quick in the warm-up, but now looking hot in the qualifying 6th place for him. Rachel Hunt managing a 7th when all is said and done. Eric Roberts will start in P8. Colton Lane will be 9th, and Josue Tellez rounding out your top 10.
And we have Charles Sumner and John LaBath on row 6, with Brandon Walter and Mike Caterina on row 7. Nick Ketchum and Adam Zemke in 15th and 16th. I feel like Zemke kind of maybe missed his lap a little bit. Looked like he had a lot more pace in practice than he actually showed there in qualifying. Then after that, we had Danny Cervantes and Trevor White, Nicholas Hunter, and Mike Richter and round out the top 20.
We only have 2 more cars that put times in. Barron Hilton will be starting 21st, and Andy Spicer in 22nd. From then on out, these are drivers that will be starting from the back of the field. Rob Haynes, Mark Kalin, and Brennan Chatley, sort of according to iRacing. They're all starting to grid up now, where we'll get 2 pace laps since it's under a mile circuit. So we'll have a little bit of time. One thing I also wonder about, even though we mentioned that it is cooler temperatures, what can the drivers do to look out for the rear tires? Because this seems like a rear tire traction track, just going on my instinct here, Christian. Correct me if I'm wrong. How can they keep them in order?
Well, it's really just a case of managing the throttle and kind of not getting really excited on corner exit, especially if you're stuck on that top line. It's really easy to burn them off if you're up there, and it's definitely a bottom lane preferred track, but that doesn't mean that you can't make something happen on the top. For example, on the restart, if the bottom lane's stacking, it's not going to help you to go down there. So if you just kind of have some patience, you run the top, you might be able to make something work, but you do have to be careful, and especially after about 5 to 7 laps, if you're really standing on the pedal, you're going to feel it.
Well, we'll see who's gentle, who's got that egg under the throttle, and as we said, whether or not Bradley Hawley can be toppled for the 2nd time this season out of 7 races. Even if they do, that doesn't mean that the championship is at a loss for Hawley, as if he finishes even within the top 10, I'd say he'll still be incredibly hard to catch in the last 3 rounds after this one. Last of the drivers we're waiting to grid up before we can get this pace lap going is Brendan Chatley. And is Brendan actually here today? Yes, he is. He is still in the session, so all 25 drivers should take the green flag, it looks like.
It's going to be interesting to see how Rob Haynes progresses through the field. He's starting in 23rd. We know he's fast. I suspect he'll be moving his way forward quickly.
Yeah, and the last race at Kansas, we saw a little bit of pit strategy maybe to try and take care of that. Could you use that around here? Can you be a little bit free and loose with the tire strategy as far as coming in or staying out during cautions?
Well, again, it really depends on where you are in the pack. Now, if you're the leader, you don't want to give up that track position. So sometimes staying out, especially if you can bring at least a couple of cars with you, it can pay off to do that. Likewise, taking 2 tires for guys further back in the field is a good way, especially near the end of the race. Say you jump yourself from 15th to 5th, if there's 10 laps to go, you're not going to lose those 10 spots. So it's a gamble worth taking.
So Dan McLaren, who leads them on the inside, will see the Mustang pace car peel in as we have the entrance on the backstretch again. There you see it goes. So control given to the number 73 as he patiently paces them around 3 and 4, getting them nice and stacked up as the green flag comes out, and we are underway here for round 7. Down into turn 1. McLaren being challenged on the outside by the 67 of Harvey, but he just doesn't have the grip this early in the race. He'll slot into the line. In fact, most of the top 10 are single file until you get into some side-by-side racing between Rachel Hunt and Eric Roberts. This is for 7th position.
Yeah, looks like there's a big fight to get into the bottom line, and had a little bit of contact near the back. A couple of guys really out of shape, but they've got it straightened up, and really does look like almost everybody's single file already.
Relatively patient start. I still see Colton Lane on the inside of Josue Telez. As you can see, a little bit farther up, we got an attack down for 3rd place as Pat Harvey has recently lost out to Bradley Hawley, already getting into 2nd. And that was Frank Peacock that I was seeing, trying to see if he could take something away from the 67.
Yeah, it looked like Harvey had a massive moment, and we've got someone going around on the exit of 4.
Ooh, is that Telez? No, that's LaBaff. That is the 911. That started in front of him. He was the victim, unfortunately. Looks like the 24 Telez gets tipped by Colton Lane. Those two plunk into one another, and then you'll see LaBaff get into the back of that duo and unfortunately find himself turned the wrong direction. Oh, and he got some help.
Yeah, it looks like there's big damage to the front of the 24 there as well, and you got to be careful here, especially if you're in the mid pack and that kind of thing happens in front of you. The road can become closed very, very quickly, and there's really not a lot you can do.
Just another angle. Wow, big damage on the 24. LaBaff did get his car going as well, but he's now last on the field. Now, we didn't have Brendan Chatley actually join, so I wonder if he is just one of our stewards out there today instead. So 24 cars have started this race. We've got Hilton in, Colton Lane, Telez, Caterino, LaBaff, as I mentioned, Cervantes. Looks like Hunter and Spicer all have stopped in. Everybody else is out.
Yeah, we did only about 3 to 4 laps under green there. There's really no tire advantage to be had by pitting. I think most of the guys who came down were ones who had some contact in that wreck.
But I think we're going to see a couple go a lap down, as most of them are trying to squeak out ahead of the pace car, but it looks like Nick Hunter is going to be the last one. So who got trapped? Danny Cervantes.
Yeah, it looked like he just waited just maybe a second and a half too long and just wasn't able to beat the pace car there.
Good news is they do have lucky dogs in this series, so he will be able to get that back if we get a caution and he stays the only car a lap down. Still, we'll put him all the way at the back of the pack of everybody, and that will not be fun to try and work his way through. Still waiting to go double file, though.
And on that point, he's going to have to hope that a yellow comes out pretty quickly, because it's a very short lap, and you're going to find that the leader is lapping people very, very quickly. So this is not a place where you want to, well, no, you never want to get trapped a lap down, but you really don't want to be trapped a lap down at this place.
Also, Colton Lane has come in a second time to get more of that damage repaired. He is going to get back out on the lead lap, so all should be well there. As now we finally get the lights off on the pace car. And it's going to be McLaren who leads them once again. This time it is Bradley Hawley, not a name I would want starting beside me, as he's been incredibly fast and very dominant, not just this season, but the past few.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do from that outside lane. I suspect he's going to try and tuck in behind and get to the bottom as soon as he can.
Yeah, certainly based on what we saw in the first lap. Everybody quickly trying to get single file as the green flag comes out, and he's got an opening right away, but behind him, that was a horrible start for Peacock, as he falls backwards a little bit and already looking like he's going to lose position to Paul Williams. Paul gets up into fourth. Oh, but he also gets into the 67. Both of them slipping up high, getting turned around, and there's big junk now.
We've got a huge road closure now in 3 and 4.
That was Harvey that he clipped, and Williams was the one that made the clipping. He went up into the outside wall. The 55 of Peacock came to a halt because of that, and then he got absolutely thrown by Brandon Walter. 99, if we want an interesting onboard, just plowed into him.
Yeah, it looked like the 7 was going for a really aggressive move there, and just kind of snatched the brake, and just looked like he realized late on that it wasn't going to work, and he did his best to try and get away from it, but kind of put his own car in the fence by doing so.
Peacock's perspective as well. He was the one that got caught up on the high side. The 51 of Mike Richter also involved there. He got tipped twice, actually, and I think the 46 of Andy Spicer, one of those that ran into Richter's incident. That was the number 1 of Catarino that also turned it around. Catarino's since come in to take repairs.
Yeah, Richter was heavily pinballed there. It looks like he's got a lot of damage both ends of the car.
A little bit of a sloppy start here in the first few laps of round 7. But most everybody still driving. Richter's getting some repairs. Williams is as well. Everyone else just a quick set of tires and banging some of the sheet metal back in, and they're on track. I guess that's one of the nice things, is as messy as it gets here at Martinsville, doesn't it tend to be mostly low-speed incidents?
Well, it does, but the thing is that, especially if you get turned around, there's such a high chance that somebody else is going to get into you in a secondary incident. So it's very dangerous, really, to be involved in anything here, because it just stacks up so quickly. And interestingly, on that yellow, we saw that McLaren and Harvey both came down, and they've really cycled themselves into the mid-pack now, and I'm not really sure that was a great idea. We didn't have many laps on the green. It seems not really what you'd want to do, especially given what we've seen with the 2 yellows and a lot of cars involved. I wouldn't want to cycle myself back into the pack right now.
Yeah, I agree. There seems to be a big risk in what they've done in terms of just keeping the car whole. Although it could set them up to maybe going to the finish, depending on how many cautions we get like this. And maybe that's what they're thinking. Is that if it's just a yellow fest, maybe that'll cycle them back up through and don't have to make their pit stop. Let's see if we can get some green flag racing in now with Bradley Hawley leading the way with Eric Roberts to his outside. Out of turn 4, and the green flag is out once more. Both of them with a great jump up to the front, leaving Besaw in the dust back in 3rd. Charles Sumner trying to get to the low line, as we got a battle behind him for 5th place between Ketchum and Hunt, and already a caution. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's a lot of cars in here.
Yeah, it looked like we had three wide coming off of 2 there, and it just doesn't work, and especially not this early on.
Looks like in the middle that was LaBaff between Haynes and Hilton. There you see it right there. Hilton in the 13 on the high side, and I'm gonna watch LaBaff's view, but after this I'd love to see the 46 of Spicer, who has a miraculous escape through the middle. Some big hits there. The Atlantic driver of Spicer. Of course, I guess he's already got his damage from previous incidents. But doesn't have to suffer more. Ooh, look at that. On his tiptoes.
Picked his way through there quite nicely right there, and I hate to say I was right, but Pat Harvey, one of the guys who pitted, had heavy damage in that wreck.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I just it seemed like it was a matter of time, and it only took 2 corners, honestly, before it came true. We're only on lap 19. Third caution of the day. We're going to take a real quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel while they get this sorted out and a few more drivers take stops to get repairs and tires. We'll come back after this with more green flag racing here in round 7 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Welcome back to Martinsville Speedway. We're getting ready to take the green once again, starting on lap 23. Bradley Ollie has control of the fields. Green flag is out. He's going to get in front of Roberts one more time, as behind them, Besaw has got to deal with a car to the outside. That is Charles Sumner looking to try and take that away. And boy, look at the top 2 just stretch away down the backstretch.
And we've got a lot of 2 wide behind them, and I think it's actually helping those guys get away because of that.
Getting 3 wide for a moment. Kalen, Peacock, and Haynes. I think Haynes learned better out of his last 3 wide moment. He pulled out of it very quickly.
It's just too early, really, to be doing 3 wide here. We're only just over 20 laps in.
Ooh, that was Roberts we just saw getting loose off of turn 4. And he loses 3rd place. Excuse me, 2nd place. Besaw gets up into 2nd. The 28 falls to 3rd, stops it before Zemke manages to get by. Oh, but look at behind them. The 8 gets into, that's Trevor White getting into, I believe, Charles Sumner. And another caution. And almost exactly like what we saw before.
It is very easy to do. Like I was saying to you in the break, you just get overexcited about making the move happen, and by the time you realize that you've gone in too deep, there's very little you can do.
Cars got plugged up behind that didn't really do a lot of damage, I think. That's Rob Haynes, Josue Telez, and Danny Cervantes. Just on that curb, and as soon as he touched that curb, there was no controlling that thing.
And he was very, very far back. I'm not even really sure that his goal there was to make a pass.
Yeah, I think it is essentially just things started to go wrong, and it was a domino effect of bad events that eventually wound up with a few cars stopped and losing positions. Certainly one of the more minor incidents we've seen thus far compared to the big pileups we've had. And how many are we still waiting to actually take a single stop out there? Looks like Holly, Besaw, Robert, Zemke, Hunt, and Peacock. And Sumner's going to stay out. So he should cycle past at least Kalen, but not past Lane, Caterino, and McLaren, who have all stopped in front of him.
Yeah, as you were saying, it was quite a minor incident. Obviously, he's a little tore up on the left rear, but hey, it's Martinsville. He's probably okay. I really would not want to go any further back than I absolutely had to right now. So I think it's smart that those top 6 haven't pit at all. I don't think they're going to suffer anything in terms of performance from doing so.
And Sumner changes his mind. He is going to come in and get repairs. But with him coming in late, they should cycle him to the back, which, well, maybe that's what he wants, is just simply to not be in the middle here. Tropicana car comes down to his stall and hits it nicely.
With only 15 on the lead lap right now, that's not really a bad decision. He's not going all the way to the back, and as long as he doesn't fall off the lead lap, I think it's if you're going to get damage looked at and fixed, you definitely want to do it early on.
Yeah, despite a lot of drivers being a lap down, we've only lost Nick Ketchum, who actually we didn't lose due to damage. He lost his internet connection. Chatley, we mentioned, did not start, and Mike Richter, for some reason, still in the pits getting heavy repairs. He must have had engine damage with his incident. Lights are off on the pace car, and Bradley Hawley now has Robert Besaw up on the high side. So Besaw do as good as Roberts did for the first few restarts. He was on the front row. 3 and 4. Green flag comes out. Hawley's pretty familiar with starting up at the front. It looks like Besaw not doing as good of a job as he could have hoped. Down to the inside comes Eric Roberts to try and snatch that second place back, and I think he's going to get it.
Yeah, if he can roll good through 3 and 4, he might be clear on the exit of 4.
There it is.
He is.
Behind them, we've got a battle for 4th place. Hunt to the inside of Zemke. There you can see them behind those two. Zemke has to give up. So Rachel manages to get into P4, and we got another car deep to the inside of Zemke. That is McLaren trying to find his way back forward. The number 73 has now managed to reach 6th, but couldn't crack into the top 5 that time through.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a late move there, and didn't look like Zemke was all that happy to kind of give him space there. But McLaren is the first car on any new tires, so to speak, so it should be interesting to see if he can actually progress through these top 5 if we get some green flag running.
Well, that won't help as he got a big shot to the back from Colton Lane. Not intentional, just couldn't blow it up in time. Again, just cosmetic damage from what we can see, so shouldn't be an issue for the number 73.
You can take a lot of rear panel damage, and it really doesn't hurt you. The big thing is keeping the nose clean.
Now right on board with Colton Lane, looking up ahead. These drivers starting to lose a little bit of touch with the top group because Hawley has definitely pulled a gap over Roberts. And then you've got Roberts and Besaw fighting along with Hunt and Zemke close. But looking to the inside, Colton Lane's got to run down the back stretch. McLaren doesn't defend. He's going to let him through. And Lane is going to move himself to P6.
Yeah, it looks like McLaren's actually struggling a little bit. And he put down a great qualifying time. And it would have been really interesting to see if he'd have been able to hold on to the lead had he not pitted. But I guess we're kind of seeing now maybe he's falling back a little bit.
Not really seeming to strive, or thrive rather, here in the race conditions, as we got another caution, and this one with LaBaff again. This time a single car incident out of turn 4. See the 911 getting on the throttle and getting on it way too much.
Yeah, and you can see right at the end of the concrete pad is when it really got away from him, and that's what you got to be careful of, is that transition off the concrete pad is more severe than you might think, and especially if you hammer down, it can bite you.
I'd say that was the longest green flag run we've had thus far, as Holly is actually going to come in.
We're just under 40 laps into the race, and you mentioned it earlier when we saw McLaren actually come down, about maybe they can make it to the end on fuel, and I would definitely suspect that might have been why they did that, and that might be why we're seeing Holly come down now. 100 lap run and just staying out isn't a bad strategy at all, and if it does by some chance go green from here, he'll be well set.
He's going to get the first out of the pits, followed by B-Saw. But wasn't Roberts in front of him? Oh, and Roberts was slowing there. Interesting. I'm not sure why he gave up some of those positions. The couple drivers that stayed out, Josue Tellez and Frank Peacock, now inherited the front row. Looks like Kalen also stayed out. Sumner as well.
I'm wondering if Roberts might have got himself a speeding penalty on exit.
That's a good point. I did see he hit the exit cone. I don't know if that is a penalty in itself.
You don't usually pick one up for doing that, I don't think.
He's continuing to fall backwards. It almost looks like he has an EOL.
Well, that is the normal penalty for speeding on exit, and there are a lot of cars behind him still that he'll have to let through. So this is really gonna hurt. Like we've said, there's quite a few cars off the lead lap, and he's gonna have to start behind them, and that's gonna be tough for him to cut through.
The good news for fans of Holly is that though he did come in while others stayed out, it's very few cars in front of him on this restart. As you can see, we're starting to get double file once again. So not as much danger necessarily in front of our champion as we saw with some of our drivers who put themselves firmly in the mid-pack. But what can Tellez do with a modified looking number 24 restarting at the very front? He's got control of the field. Green flag is out, and he gets a decent jump. Peacock behind him, trying to fight for second place. That's Kalen and the yellow and orange car, seeing if he can take that away. He's not quite clear as they come down the backstretch, but they've already got Bradley Holly in the mix, seeing if he can get onto the podium.
I think Peacock's been very, very cautious. He's the only guy out there who hasn't visited pit road at least once, so he has the oldest tires, and he's starting on that top side as well, so it's going to be difficult for him.
And not only did he lose out to Holly, he opened the door for Charles Sumner, who was not able to take advantage of that. So Peacock settles into fourth position. You can see behind them the battle between Hunt and McLaren. That was for 7th spot, but McLaren's going to come out on top. Bradley Holly already looking for second place on Mark Kalen. He poked his nose in. Is up high. Whoa. Once again, Frank Peacock. You talked about those old tires. They are not looking good.
Yeah, it looked like he just struggled to get it stopped a little bit in 3 and 4 and ended up on the top side, and now he's he's managed to find himself a little bit of a gap, but he's lucky that was available. I thought he might be going all the way to the back there.
I am noticing, even when he isn't under pressure, he could be riding kind of a lane up from the curb, but we're watching Holly's perspective now. Wow, all over the bumper of Mark Kalin.
Yeah, and I think for Holly right now, he'll want to get back to the lead because having control of the restarts is a huge advantage, but he must know that there's a lot of the guys he's used to, say, racing for this on speed have had their own issues. He doesn't need to push this. He just needs to clear these two in a way that's kind of safe.
Peacock loses another one as McLaren now goes by, and that bumps Frank down into 7th. So his ploy to get himself some track position worked for a lap or two. But right now, the 55 has got to be wondering about his strategical call. He keeps slipping backwards. That won't be good news.
That said, with how it was going, with how there was so many yellows, it seemed a smart decision to sort of keep yourself at the front and hope that you would be ahead of them.
Right on board with Frank, who continues to fall back from McLaren. And I think Holly has just about got that second spot. He managed to get to the inside of 3 and 4. It's not done yet. Kalen's going to make him work for it. As hard as he's making him work, it's not enough to make Bradley Holly break a sweat, if I could get my metaphor out. That bumps him up to 2nd position. Josue Tellez, the next on his list.
Yeah, I think Kalen will probably realized it was only a matter of time. Holly's got actually some of the freshest tires out here. About a 10-lap advantage over Kalen and Tellez, so it really is speed, and I think, honestly, it's not really in their interest to fight him at this point.
Well, how much does Tellez want to win is the question mark. Because he's got a 2/10 advantage over Holly. But Holly ran him down very quickly. In fact, under braking, you can see him closing in. Looking incredibly strong, making good use of those fresh tires to complete another lap. Still not even halfway through this race, and certainly looks like the 184 is biding his time behind number 24.
Yeah, and I'm impressed at how fast that modified 24 is going around this track, actually. We know it's not a downforce track, but still, he's got heavy front damage and is maintaining a really good pace.
And making good use of what he's got. That's all you can do. And again, Bradley Holly not in a rush to try and make a move, even though he had very good pace.
Holly with one of the only clean cars out here and the best tires. There's no rush for him, and I think he knows that.
You see Robert Besaw Jr. Oh, Mark Kalin just had a moment off of turn 2. Catches it before hitting the wall, but loses 3 spots in the process. Let's take a look at the replay on that. That was honestly a pretty good catch. Woo.
Yeah, a really big snap right there. Good job keeping it out of the inside wall.
So he lost out to Sumner, Besaw, and McLaren. That moves him to 6th position, just ahead of the struggling Frank Peacock. Take a glance back at our leaders once more. Now, they are coming up on lap traffic already. Paul Williams, the last car on the lead lap, who is not looking quick at all, is going to slow up and move to the high side. Oh, and he gets lapped just as we have a yellow flag, and that's Zemke in what looks like a single car incident. Talk about horrible timing for Williams. So 21. Looks like get one better view here. I think Lane may be checked up in front of him, and looks like maybe it put Zemke off.
Yeah, looked like he kind of maybe checked up, and then when he got back to the gas, it just went away from him. Again, easy to do, especially on the exit of 4 like that.
And this is sending a bunch of our drivers in for stops. Tellez leads Holly, leads Sumner, and Besaw, and pretty much everybody.
Yeah, it looks like the entire lead laps come down here, and it's going to equalize everybody out, which should be interesting actually going forwards, because the field's really kind of mixed up. there's a couple of guys who traditionally have maybe top 5 pace who are kind of back in the pack quite a bit here. So it'll be interesting to see how this works with everybody equalized out on the same tires going forwards.
Back out first. Oh, I don't think it's going to be our leader coming in. And it's not. It's Bradley Hawley who beats the 24 of Tellez to the pit exit line.
That's really going to help Hawley as well now, having the control of the restarts again.
Especially with the pace that we saw over the 24. I'm not sure that as quick as Tellez has been, we'll be able to keep with Hawley once we get that restart. Besaw came out in 3rd, and Dan McLaren up to 4th with that set of pit stops.
Yeah, he's been fighting his way back up, and we mentioned it looked like he maybe was struggling a little bit, but he's moved himself back to the top 5. Restarting on the outside, be interesting to see if he can get himself down to the bottom, or if maybe he can make the top line work, but I think it'll be difficult behind Tellez. I think if there's ever a time when the damage is going to really show, it'll be right on the restart.
And Paul Williams did manage to get his lap back just through staying out and coming in a little bit late for his pit stop. So the number 7 back to the front. Well, back to the front pack.
Yeah, it was a little bit unlucky that he'd just been lapped when the yellow came out. But at the same time, he didn't really lose anything from it. He was at the tail end of the lead lap anyway, so it's kind of a wash.
I guess it was unlucky, if anything, for the driver who would have gotten the lucky dog if it weren't for him. Sort of snatched that away with seconds to spare. But we're doubled up, and we're going to get the restart once again on lap 66. We are now past halfway. Or excuse me, no, we're not past halfway. I can do math, I swear. We've got a couple laps to get there. Holly. Whoa, big checkup for the 24. It's Tellez sleeping on the restart. Might actually lose second place. Down to the inside, Robert Besaw has got the desired line, but they're going to be a drag race down into turn 3. Besaw deeper on the brakes as the 24 tries desperately to cling to that second spot, but it is not to be. And oh, McLaren hit the wall big time.
Yeah, it was a pretty poor restart by Tellez. Actually didn't lose out near as much as he could have done, though, able to slot down into 3rd there.
A bit of a fight back behind them. Rachel Hunt managing to get by Peacock. That gives her 6th position. Peacock once again finding himself stuck around the outside, because now here comes Haynes down to the inside. The number 29. Not going to give him space, and there's really no gap for the 55 to duck down low, because Colton Lane is right behind, and he is also going to try and send it in deep, nearly get into the side of Peacock. The 55 is having just a horrible race with his high line. He did come in and get tires with everybody, so he's on the same tire strategy, but certainly not on the right racing line.
Yeah, he's just been stuck up there. He has managed to get himself back down to the bottom line, but he's going to have to get in a rhythm pretty quickly here, otherwise he's going to have Roberts trying to make a move on him.
Oh, we got a caution. I'm not sure what this one is for, though.
It certainly wasn't up inside the top 10.
Oh, Baron Hilton. Hilton was turned sideways on the front stretch in the number 13. And he hit the incident limit. Baron Hilton, who's going to get loose. As you'll see here, just getting sideways, hit the inside wall, and bloop. There he goes.
We've seen that turn 4 is really catching a lot of people out. And we've seen people get a little bit loose off of 2, but it looks like they're struggling a lot more off of 4 than they are off of 2.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot more incidents off of that final corner. This sent John LaBaff in, Charles Sumner, Paul Williams taking a stop, Zemke, Cervantes. Danny Cervantes did recently get back on the lead lap, I think, with a couple others. So I'm guessing with this stop, or with this recent caution rather, they're going to take advantage of that to get themselves some fresh tires. See if that'll give them any sort of advantage with a couple green flag laps that we had.
Yeah, I believe that Cervantes, he took the wave around last time by. He would have actually been the lucky dog, but obviously we saw Williams picked it up right at kind of the end of the run, and looked like Cervantes has made a gamble to take just the regular wave around, and it's really paid off having the yellow so soon. So we'll see if he can make good with those new tires now.
Yeah, it all came out in the wash anyways. So he got the caution that he needed out of there. You can see already, once again, behind the pace car, waiting for them to give them the signal for one to go. You know, I'll have to ask our director maybe, because I do know they sell Martinsville hot dogs, which always seemed appropriate for this track, since to me it was kind of shaped like one. Do they have Martinsville-themed paper clips because of the nickname here? He's racking his brain right now. Yes, I'm getting a no, so I guess not. This seems like a merchandising opportunity, but again, I'm not in charge of... Well, actually, I am in charge of merch for GSRC, so maybe I shouldn't say that I shouldn't be the one to ask. We are past halfway now. And we're finally getting the one to go.
And I do think that actually, even with the number of yellows that we've had, we could still be on to finish this in the lap limit.
Yeah, I haven't looked at our time left quite yet. All right, pace car is in. Bradley Hawley leads the way. Besaw Jr. up on the high side. The 24 down low. Had a horrible start last time. Looking a little bit better, but not good enough to try and take it away from Besaw unless he sends it in deep down in turn one. No, it's Besaw who sends it way too deep. He's all the way up to the outside, leaving tire marks all the way, catches it, but he goes from second down to 11th, maybe even 12th on the first lap.
It was a massive mistake, followed immediately by a great save not to put it in the wall, but it kind of looked like Tellez sort of tricked him into that a little bit, and Besaw's got to be furious with himself for falling for it.
From 0 to 0 very quickly. We'll go and take another look at that when things calm down. Right now, Kalen fighting for the third spot with McLaren. Our pole sitter is finally back up towards the front of the field, but nowhere near our leader to try and challenge him for the lead. He's still trying to get onto the podium.
It looks like he's trying to make the top line work, and he is clear on the entry to 3, and he has been able to pull down and take that third spot.
Beautiful move by the 73. Behind them, wow, fierce battle going on between Haynes and Hunt, weaving and bobbing on their way down the straights.
Yeah, it looked like Hunt was gonna make a play for the inside, and Haynes saw it coming and went to cover it off.
Haynes just got into the back of Kalen a little bit there as well. So I talked about those tempers flaring around here, and it looks like some patience are starting to run out a little bit.
Well, we are over halfway, and the laps do click off pretty fast here. So, especially if you kind of run into the top 10, think you can be in the top 5, or say you're running in top 15, think you can be top 10. Now is the time to go. So, I can understand the aggression at this stage.
Really getting a bit of a train forming from third on back to Les and Hawley, pulling away from this group led by McLaren with Kalen behind him. A little bit of a look from Kalen rather, and decides better of it. Then you've got Haynes, who I mentioned, Hunt behind him, Colton Lane, and finally you get a little bit of a break back to 8th with Eric Roberts.
It looks like McLaren has good raw speed, but he's just struggling for consistency, and it actually looks like he's a little better when he's following a car, and because he's got that bit of a gap up to second, he kind of jumps out a little bit, and then he gets pulled back, and it's just Constantino and everyone up behind him in this group here.
Yeah, this is not a clog that these drivers want to be a part of. Kalen keeps taking little looks there to see if he can get that spot back, but he's not quite close enough. Whoa, and almost got another shot from Rob Haynes.
Kalen might not be close enough, but I think if he doesn't get the move done soon, he's going to find that Haynes is is going to run out of patience, and he's going to have a move put on him.
Run out of patience or run out of talent, one or the other, because I'm not sure if that one was intentional for Maines. Like he was just trying to keep from outbreaking himself. Finally gets a little bit of a buffer back to Rob. Kalen could breathe a little bit easier. Oh, no, he can't, because he is slipping and sliding out of 4 and catches it. That's not going to be good for the tires, though.
Yeah, and we've said a lot of guys seem to be struggling on exit of 4. Everybody looks really well planted off of 2, which is a little bit surprising to me.
Another caution. Andy Spicer looks to be the victim this time. And I think it is again turn 4. Oop, oop. He just about caught it about 5 times.
And again, you kind of see it right at the end of the concrete pad is when it's just snapping and getting away from him.
And a lot of our leaders are coming in as we come back live. You can see that Holly Tellez, McLaren, Kalen Haynes, actually pretty much everyone. Sumner's going to stay out, and Caterino is going to stay out. LaBaff as well. LaBaff with the fresh, nope, Charles Sumner, the freshest tires up at the front. LaBaff on the same strategy, but Charles has the track position.
It'd be interesting to see if, how Caterino actually holds on. I was watching him a little bit, and it looked like when he was out on the top line, he was struggling a little bit to make that work. So restarting up there, he's actually got the oldest tires of the bunch. He's got 10 lap older than Sumner. So we'll see how well he hangs on up there.
Oh no! I saw Dan McLaren beat Tellez out of the pits, and it is history repeating itself. McLaren is now going to the end of the line. He must have also got that speeding penalty.
It's really easy to do. The pit lane speed limit's really, really low here with it being such a short track, and it's going to hurt, that is. It's really late in the race to be picking up that kind of penalty.
And especially the progress he had just made back up to the front. Caterino is pitting. The 67 of Harvey also in, so they're going to give up track position. This moves Holly up to 3rd with LaBaff and Sumner with a big challenge on their hands.
Yeah, and it's going to really stack the field up, I think, because you're going to have everybody behind them on fresh ones, and we're not talking just a few laps fresh. We're talking almost 20 laps on tires fresh, so they are going to be considerably slower, and I think everybody that's got fresh tires behind, they know they need to be aggressive. We're coming down to the end of the race, but at the same time, you have to remember that if the race is under yellow, it doesn't matter that you have new tires. You can't use them. So you have to maintain composure and just kind of pick off people slowly and work it through like that.
Yeah, we're going to be just under 18 minutes left on the clock with 50 laps to go. So that's going to be awful tight, especially if we keep getting these cautions. Question whether or not we could get to the full lap length. Sumner getting the green flag as he accelerates away, but it's not the best jump we've seen. Oh, and already we got a big one happening.
Yeah, it looked like the green came out, and Sumner and LaBaff still hadn't really gone, and it kind of looked like we had Kalen and I think Eric Roberts got together there, and Roberts got turned around.
That was indeed the case. Could have been a lot worse. Those around were very heads up. You can see the incident happening. Let's see from Kalen's perspective. Looks like, here we go. Now we found that replay. You know, it looks silly from the outside, but this onboard view really gives us a good sense, Christian, of how blind you are when you're that close to the car ahead.
Well, that's the thing. If you're tucked right up behind them and then suddenly they don't go, then and you're kind of already have committed to going, it is one of those incidents that looks silly, and when you're kind of involved in it, especially when you're the car turning another around, you do feel really silly for it. But it's not uncommon, especially when people are holding very late on restarts, because you get everybody's they're trying to anticipate it, and obviously if somebody anticipates it way in advance and they go and then they have to check up, it's really easy to just run them over.
All right. So we're now looking like it's a lot more likely we will be time limited on this race. Sumner and LaBath, because it was so short, are still ahead of Holly up at the front of this train of cars. I saw that we got Walter coming in, Williams, who I think got a little bit of that wreck, came in for a stop. Mark Kalin obviously got a little bit of repairs done. We still actually have 17 cars on the lead lap.
And Kalin was actually just dropped off the lead lap and becomes the first car a lap down. I expect that we saw Williams just kind of repairing more damage. He's had significant damage for most of the race, and I'd be surprised if he's not still fixing that from earlier.
But he's going to come right back in anyway, since I'm watching him duck down pit lane. We've had Andy Spicer since leave. He is no longer in the race. Eric Roberts as well. Mike Richter, who was in for a long time for repairs, is back out, but he is 24 laps down from the leaders, so he is essentially cruising to see whatever positions he can scalp.
Kalen's actually still in his box and has gone 2 laps down now, so I'm wondering if he might have parked it for the evening.
That could be. Some drivers just don't feel confident at a track and will decide that it is not worth risking those around them. What will be the risks be for our leaders now that we go too wide? You can see there from on board that Kalin is not in the car right now, so maybe he's spotting for a teammate. Who knows? This car is now in the bath, waiting and watching to see what Sumner does to make sure he doesn't get jumped by Holly. Green flag is out, and though it looks like a decent start from LaBath, he was not successful in holding Holly back. Very quickly, he is up into second place, and in fact, he's very strong off of turn 2, looking to the inside of Sumner, seeing if he can outbrake him into the corner. Sumner gives him space, but he's got a good run on the outside up until the exit, and now Holly is back through to the lead.
Yeah, it's the best thing that Holly could have done right there. Just kind of wrestle back control of the restarts. You do not want to be reliant upon others, especially with how fast he's been all race, as we see some 3 wide into 3.
That was LaBath who got shuffled back there. Little bit of door banging, caught it, no caution. That's actually going to allow Tellez up to 3rd, Hunt into 4th, and just as I say that, it looks like Colton Lane lost, Colton Lane lost out to Rob Haynes.
Yeah, drove in very deep and was very, very high in turn 2, and Haynes just ducked under, and Haynes has been looking really aggressive. I wonder if he's going to, I think he might even get as high as 2nd here.
And don't look now, behind them, you might notice an orange and blue car. That is Robert Besaw. After he fell all the way to 12th with his restart fiasco, he's back up to 7th. And he's got a couple cars to go to get back where he was before.
Made good progress, especially with that mishap that went on, and I think he'll be pretty happy that he's been able to get back as high as he has.
Right on board with him. Holly has already pulled away from Sumner by about a second. The 184 is just unstoppable anymore. As soon as he gets into the lead, his pace at every track has been tremendous. If anything, the first real battle we've got is between Sumner and Tellez for that 2nd place, a literal best of the rest.
And Sumner's doing a good job here. He's on these old tires, and to be honest, he doesn't really look like he's any slower than Tellez. It actually looks like Tellez is going to be under threat first from Hunt here.
We're down to 36 laps to go with 11 and some minutes left. I agree. Hunt is looking fairly good. Number 16 has been pressuring Tellez for a couple laps now. But we've seen this 16 up towards the front of the field for much of this race. Just really hasn't done a lot that's made us turn the cameras to her. She's probably happy to have it that way for at least a little while longer.
Yeah, has had a fairly uneventful race tonight. Just kind of ran around in the top 10 the whole time, and probably looking to pick up a good result. Was running really strong at Kansas, and so we had that late race wreck that took her out. But yeah, an understated performance, but was running good.
But now she is also dropping off of Tellez for as close as she was for a while. It's back to the mirrors for her because the number 29 is starting to creep forward and bringing Lane and Besaw along with them.
Yeah, and I was wondering at what point Haynes was kind of going to get ready to make a move. I mentioned he's been pretty aggressive, and I think as he sees Hunt sort of falling back, he's not going to want to hang around, because if he does, he's going to be under threat from Lane.
Off onto the backstretch again. Besaw taking a little bit of a look to the inside this time. He's feeling like it's time to go now that we got some green flag racing. Colton Lane is not close enough to try and get that nose down to the rear quarter panel.
Yeah, just kind of stuck his nose out there, made Lane cover him off a little bit. Wondering if he's just kind of trying to distract Lane a little bit, get him to drop off a bit, and maybe have a gap that he can slide up into if he does manage to clear Lane.
Whatever the case, we've got a bit of a stalemate here from this group. Third on down to 9th position. Tellez is at the front in P3. Then you've got Hunt, Haynes, Lane, Besaw, Zimke, and Peacock, with Hunt trying to break things up, also looking to the inside of the 24.
And it's really going back and forth here, because now Hunt looked like she was dropping off a little bit and is now right back there trying to make a move on Tellez.
I mean, is there a worry if she tries to make a move that it could backfire? Could this be something that sets off Rob Haynes having an opportunity if her pass doesn't go off?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've seen that already tonight, that it looks like the car's pretty nervous on the brakes, especially in a 3, and nobody's really been able to pull off I'm going to say a controlled pass on the bottom. Everybody's kind of looked a bit on edge when they've tried it, so with this many cars stacked behind you and this closely, you can't afford to make a mistake if you're going for the move.
So if we're not getting any mistakes with this group, they haven't changed position at all. We're down to 25 laps to go, and we've got 8 minutes left.
What's interesting, actually, is that Holly is not really getting anywhere. If anything, Sumner's not necessarily catching him, but at least holding him to about a second out.
Could this be a case of the 184 managing the gap? Maybe thinking another caution is easily going to come his way and no use using up the tires?
Quite possibly, yes. I suspect that if we do see another yellow now, he's definitely not going to pit, as we see the 7 just kind of get him moved around here.
Looks like Williams is just trying to let everybody through carefully with this giant group. Unfortunately, has caught him, and they're all going to get through.
This is one really long snake all the way from 2nd to 9th here, so any mistake that happens, as we have another yellow.
Yes, we do. And that was Richter. Richter and LaBaff, it looks like, got into one another. Oh, and LaBaff is going to disappear because of the incident limit. With Richter this many laps down, I don't think we're going to see a very happy John LaBaff.
Yeah, I think he's going to be pretty upset with that. I mean, didn't exactly work out good for Richter either, but especially being that many laps down, you just kind of don't want to get involved and kind of cause somebody else a problem, and especially when it's going to DQ a car.
Yeah, and I don't think Richter can get any more positions, so I don't like being too critical of drivers, but there really was no point for him being out there at that point in the race. And we've got 6.5 minutes left to go. We should have enough time for another restart, but it is fairly certain at this point that it is a time-limited race.
Yeah, we're actually only going to be just shy of the lap count, though, which is, again, quite impressive, really, considering the number of yellows we've had.
Yeah, that seems to be a good estimation on the number of laps this time, but this looks a lot like the nature of Martinsville. We kind of expected there to be a few cautions today as the sun continues to go down beautifully here in Virginia.
Oh, especially. Been 140 laps goes by pretty quickly around here, so there's really not a lot of time to ride. You really do have to be aggressive.
It's just past 5:30 p.m. virtual standard time here in Martinsville. We're going to get a nice, beautiful, scenic background for whoever wins this race and gets themselves a grandfather clock. Although, obviously, they won't be winning an actual one. We'll see if iRacing can get a virtual one to be put down in victory lane whenever you win.
That would be pretty cool to see.
Still waiting to get that one to go. We're down to 5 minutes left now. We've got 17 cars still running. And all but one are on the lead lap. Trevor White's the only one laps down. Nope, I take that back. We have 18 because Mark Kalin's come back out.
Yeah, that's interesting that Kalen's come back out. I'm wondering if he's just going to gain one spot on Richter here.
That could be. Well, Richter is still running. And he's a lap down from Richter, I'm seeing. It'd be very hard to do in these last couple minutes. I'm not exactly sure why Kalen came back out, but we are double file once more, so we are going to get going with about 4 minutes left on the clock. And the pace car is in. Bradley Hawley leading them through 3 and 4. Up to the outside, Sumner's got to deal with the 24 of Tellez, who checks up those behind him, which is beautiful for Sumner because he's already coming down to cover him off. Oh, but he gets a bump to the behind, and that's going to send a bunch of cars up high to try and avoid. No caution yet, but almost 4 wide, and somehow they come out the other end.
Yeah, Sumner's going to be really unhappy with that. It was tight whether he was clear or not, but Tellez definitely wasn't lifting when he got there.
Tellez fell down even worse. He's in 13th because of that. Hunt also a little bit disadvantaged, falling to 5th, going the long way around. This means that Colton Lane is up to 2nd, and Adam Zimke, of all people, is in 3rd.
Yeah, Lane
was 16th.
Lane was a huge beneficiary of that, and we see Dan McLaren's back up there as well, up in 4th.
So can he maybe actually get back up to the front after he... Whoa! No, that's not going to be it because Dan McLaren goes around. We got a caution. Oh, and he gets hit. And I think that was Sumner that caught him.
Yeah, he got tagged really good by Sumner there.
That was a bizarre incident.
Looked like he was just pushing really hard and dropped it on his own under braking and kind of just looped it around all the way through the corner.
Man, that's twice now that he's given up a fantastic run back to the front.
Yeah, it looks like he just kind of just pushes just a little too hard, and again, it's a difficult track, and it really will bite you, especially for overdriving.
Watching from Sumner's view, he's kind of caught up on the outside, and he's trying to get clear. Just glances him.
Yeah, not really much space available for Sumner there. You can see there was a car to his inside. If he'd have cut all the way to the bottom, it was likely he was going to take somebody else with him.
Okay, we've got less than 2 minutes left. Are we going to get restarted or is this it?
I think we might see a restart. There definitely won't be many laps though if we do go back green.
We're looking at 35-second laps under caution. So let's see, that gives us time for literally about 3 more laps from now under caution. If we do, it's gonna be a 1-lap shootout. Let's see if we get those lights off this time as they cross the line. Nope, they are not doubling up.
I can bet there's one guy out there who definitely doesn't want to see this restarted, and that's going to be Colton Lane, restarting second with a 1 to go. It's almost certain you're going to lose spots.
Well, and Bradley Holly as well, because I said it during our intro, if someone gets aggressive and gives the chrome horn, that could not only lose him the win, but many, many positions, especially this late in the race. Depends on how aggressive someone wants to be. All right, we are going double file with 30 seconds left on the clock. So I'm assuming this is a 1-lap shootout.
I believe it will be. It's not technically a green-white checkered, so it's either going to be a 1-lap shootout or it's over, but it looks like they're getting ready and it's going to be a 1-lap.
Keep an eye on the timing and scoring and try to keep you abreast on how things will finish here. Holly has control. Green flag is out, and immediately ducking down to the inside, Colton Lane is able to get into second ahead of Zemke. Caught up high, it's the 16 of Hunt trying to fight with Cervantes, who's somehow back into the mix. Up at the front, we've got the white flag, and now we got the checkered flag, so Bradley Holly comes across the line and wins his 6th out of 7.
So some post-race action there. Looked like Haynes got in the back of Cervantes and sent him around going into 1.
Yeah, the finishing order there I'm seeing is Lane managed to get in second, Zemke third. Hunt actually got up to 4th.
Yeah, good job by Lane.
Trying to figure out where McLaren wound up after all was said and done. Looks like he was 15th. Wow. Well, that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Here at Martinsville, we'll come back with your unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Give a look at the number 184 burning it down, but also watch your screen for all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Martinsville Speedway, where we just watched round 7 in the Precision Racing League's NASCAR Cup Series. Bradley Hawley was your winner here today for the 6th time out of those 7 races. Colton Lane came in behind him, and how about Adam Zemke going from 16th on the grid, taking a little bit of the action towards the end to really snipe some positions and winding up on the podium. Rachel Hunt as well with a well-earned 4th, and Danny Cervantes 17th to 5th. Big pat on the back for the number 25. Rob Haynes winds up without a qualifying time, starts from 23rd, and then ends in 6th when the checkered flag falls. Frank Peacock, who's up and down the order a number of times, he was 7th. Charles Sumner, who was looking at a potential 2nd place for a long time, eventually winds up 8th. Robert Besaw in 9th, and Mike Caterino rounds out your top 10.
And 11th, we had Jose Tellez. We saw him feature at the front of the race for a long time, slipped back to 11th at the end. Brandon Walter, didn't really speak much about him tonight, but comes home 12th. Pat Harvey started up at the front, started 2nd, came home 13th. He was involved in one of those early yellows. Nicholas Hunter, again, another driver we didn't speak a lot about tonight, but gained 5 spots, came home 14th. Dan McLaren, we saw him right at the end there have that moment and really lose a lot of track position. Unfortunately for him, comes home 15th. Paul Williams, another victim of an early yellow, started 5th, comes home 16th. Trevor White, our first driver off the lead lap in 17th. John LaBeouf in 18th. Mike Richter and Mark Kalin in 19th and 20th.
21st went to Eric Roberts, but he was 42 laps down. At this point, we're into DNF Spicer 22nd, Hilton 23rd, and Nick Ketchum 24th. Chatley was a did not start for today's race. And we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Bradley Hawley, who takes his 6th victory out of 7 races in the season. And Bradley, I have to ask, because you're not always on the pole, even though you've got a pretty good pace. You started from 3rd, but what is it that makes the difference in these fixed setup races that you're able to run such better race pace than those around you?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't try to work on getting the fastest times in practice a lot. So I work on my racecraft and try to make myself as smooth as possible throughout the race.
And you certainly made good of working your way back to the front. It didn't take you too long, but it seems you're a little out of position due to some craziness with pit stop strategy with a few drivers. What did you do to try and avoid some of the melees that were happening in the mid-pack and honestly throughout the rest of the field in its entirety that caused the spate of yellows we saw?
I think I'm going to take a little bit of a quote from Charles and on restarts, I just hoped and prayed going into turn 1 half the time. Because anything can happen. I mean, y'all saw on Wednesday, I made a mistake and got into the 24 and turned him going into turn 1. So it's, Martinsville is always going to be a strategy call when it comes to tires and pitting or not pitting. And I just had to deal with whatever was was handed to me.
There was definitely some changing conditions with it being set later in the year and later in the day. So the sun was coming down and the conditions getting cooler. How is that affecting how the car was driving for you? Was it getting grippier? Or was the handling going away?
Oh, it's definitely getting grippier. I mean, earlier this week, me and the Waterbeck guys did practice, and at times we had some sessions that were up to in the mid hundreds. So there was almost no grip, and it was quite entertaining to try to figure that out. But once it got down into the 80s, I knew we were going to have plenty of grip, and it was just a matter of keeping the tires underneath you.
Well, again, congratulations on another victory. Anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go?
I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting us. It's always great to go back and watch these races, and the Waterback guys. They always make it entertaining to race, and we have fun in practice.
Well, you're fun to watch on track, especially with your impressive pace. That was Bradley Hawley, our winner here today. 2nd place went to Colton Lane, and Christian is going to be talking to him.
Colton, we saw you were involved in something pretty early on in the race, but started 9th, came home 2nd. Pretty good race for you, right?
Yeah, man, you'll take anything like that where you get caught up in something early and get back up there to the front, even further ahead than where I started. I'll take that any day.
Right, and we've actually seen over the course of this season that you've really kind of had a lot of bad luck, and I feel like we've not really spoken to you much at all, and it's a shame because we always see that you got really good pace, and it must be nice to kind of get back up into the top 3 this season.
Yeah, tonight I didn't make any self-inflicted mistakes. I think that's what happened the past few weeks. Last week, had my incidents up. The first 12 weren't my fault, but then when I tried to make a pass on the inside of somebody, I got taken out on that one. But that happens. And then tonight, just minimize self-inflicted mistakes besides what happened early on, which I couldn't really help. Brought it home good, man.
Yeah, definitely looked like you were kind of out there looking for a solid night, not really being overly aggressive, and you were really rewarded with it coming home second. But gotta ask, with that restart at the end, knowing it was probably going to be a one-lap shootout, starting second, how did you feel about that?
Me and Brad talked about it because we're teammates, and I said, listen, if we time this restart, I promise not to wreck you, like to get the win. So we timed it and got in front of Zemke there and just brought it home 1-2. That was the goal. Because, if I move him out of the way, it either goes well for me and I win and he loses a few spots, or we just both finish up here and then, take more lead in the team points.
Well, it definitely looked like the teamwork worked out well tonight with that first and second for both of you guys. And you touched on it a little bit there. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, all the Waterback guys, man. There's too many of us. We got 3 or 4 teams in between Cup and the trucks. And the sponsor, ABC, American Breadcrumb Company, come on and sponsor both my cars this season. It's been kind of nice, not having to pay the entry fees and stuff. And been getting them some pretty good exposure in the trucks. It's nice to get back up here in a Cup cars.
All right, well, good to see you. Have a good run, and good luck for next week.
Yeah, take it easy, guys. We'll see you then.
That was our second place finisher, Colton Lane. And we've also got Adam Zemke, third place in here, who certainly was pretty happy with some of those last restarts, I have to imagine, because Adam, you up until, I guess, the second last restart, were something of a sleeper. We didn't really pay too much attention to you. And then, bam, you are in the top 3.
How you guys doing tonight? You got a copy?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, I think the seas just kind of parted for me there in them last couple restarts. I obviously had some damage I had to work on, and I think track position after that point was pretty important, so I think I just got lucky.
Yeah, looking back at how the race went for you, it seemed like you were relatively close to a number of those incidents. Do you kind of attribute a lot of the avoidance down to luck, or were you really on your game on trying to stay away from that?
We did a lot of practice earlier on, and I kind of figured out how much I could give it to try to stay away from the accidents and stuff. So, but I think a lot of luck come into play.
Next race is that we're covering is going to be at Phoenix, and that'll be in 2 weeks' time. Going from these short tracks to something a little bit bigger, is that a relief to you, or do you like the bull rings?
I actually don't like the short tracks all that much, just because of kind of what we've seen tonight in a bit of a messy race. Phoenix is a little smaller, but I do like the dog leg there, so I'm excited.
Well, fantastic stuff. Again, an awesome podium for you. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go?
I'd like to thank you guys. You always put on a good show, even though we don't always put on the best races. I'd like to thank PRL for putting these events up. And I'd like to thank my dad, who I'm sure is watching, and I'm sure he's getting a kick out of this.
That's awesome. Always glad to get the parents a little bit of recognition. That was Adam Zemke, who was our last on the podium here today. So a big congratulations to Adam. And that's going to close us out for today's interviews. Of course, a big thank you goes to the PRL once again for bringing us back for another season of coverage here for the Cup Cars. And also to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Christian, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and make sure and subscribe. If you haven't yet, you'll know it because the subscribe button will be big and red and you can't miss it. Click it so you don't miss a thing on the GSRC. The next race that we're covering, as we mentioned, that'll be Phoenix on Sunday, November 10th. They will be racing at Texas in 1 week's time. Fortunately, we won't be able to show that as we'll be covering the majors during that time. That'll be at 8:50 p.m. Eastern that they'll be racing for both of those upcoming races. We also have upcoming races for other series, though, listed on our screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.